So good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders would like to welcome entrepreneur, business owner, and advocate Lynne Dominick. Welcome, Lynne.
Hi, Kieran. So happy to be here with you.
Thank you. So firstly, congratulations on all your achievements and accomplishments and a unique journey. Can you please give us a little bit of background?
Sure. Thank you. So I'm here in New York City, just to give your listeners some context in terms of where I'm based. And I have been privileged to have an amazing career at some of the United States and the country, I guess globally, some of the most recognized publications in fashion and beauty in the world, working at Vogue and Allure and In Style and Elle. So I had this fabulous career in sales. I started out many years ago as a manager in sales for the health and beauty category. And then from there, I went into management, and I managed and motivated some very, very successful sales teams at Elle, at Self, and at In Style. So I love managing, I love motivating, and I primarily worked with women, although there were a few fabulous men that I've mentored and worked with along the way. But in publishing, in those titles, you mostly had a female staff. So I love women's empowerment. But working in the field of publishing, while it is very glamorous, it's just because of that they look for a certain type of person. And as you age, the demographics of the salespeople that are hired are quite different. And I knew that, coupled with the fact that technology was really changing the industry dramatically, I knew that it was just a matter of time before my number would be up in corporate. So I love working. So what I really wanted to do is create a life and a business for myself where I could really take all the things that I loved about what I was doing in the corporate world and translate that into my own personal life, where I wouldn't have to worry about ever facing a job loss because I would be in charge of that. So the journey started for me about 5 years ago when I left corporate and decided that I was going to go off on my own. And because I've always been a person that's really kind of written my own rules, it never dawned on me that it was going to be one of the most interesting, frustrating, and challenging steps that I would ever take in my journey as far as personal and professional life. And, I thought, I'll set the world on fire, and in a year I'm going to be making six figures. Well, it doesn't really work like that.
No, never.
So I think that, what I can really share with the people who are listening are the really fantastic things you learn when you go off on your own. However, just kind of point out the challenges and how you need to really be up for those challenges as you transition or want to transition or just want to be more empowered staying in the corporate world. So I think that that's important too. I think sometimes we have this idea that it's so fabulous out there because there have been so many success stories, and which is amazing.
But people also don't know the blood, the sweat, and the tears that goes into it. And I think, everybody just sees this, glamorous product, but they don't see, or person or brand, but they don't see that it took 10, 15, even 20 years to actually get it to that level.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think that although, as I said, there are many rewards about the reveal, you know, the discovery is amazing. You discover things about yourself that you never really dreamed possible when you're really on the other side, so to speak. But it's a challenge. There are things that you need to tap into that if you don't, can really alter your self-esteem and really alter the way you move forward. So I think it's important to point out those pitfalls and to make sure that the awareness is generated and that people walk in not with blinders on, but with a positive attitude, but with the realization that you cannot beat yourself up. You cannot judge. You have to rely on that sense of worth to see you through. And if you don't feel that at this juncture of your life that's possible, then you really have to look for something else. I think that that's really important as well, is know when to walk away from something. You can always get back to it.
So that leads me to the next question. So there is a lot of talk around women empowerment and advocacy. Can you share with us what makes you and what you do different from others? And can you please give us examples or an example?
Well, I actually, I can. And I'm not, I don't want to say that, that there aren't other people out there who incorporate a more purposeful and intentional kind of practice. But when I coach people and take them through this process, first I start with something called human design. I don't know if you're aware of that, Karen, but human design is a personal growth tool based on your birth information. And, to some people it might sound a little woo-woo, but it is an extraordinary tool to look inside of your own body's energy, find your energetic type, and see how that fits into what you do in terms of the way you approach decisions and approach others. So I start out looking at your human design. There's one of 5 types that you can be. And based on that, it all goes back to authenticity. If you're living authentically, then you're moving your energy in a way that causes the least amount of resistance. If you do something in the opposite way, you are causing nothing but frustration, resistance, and things will not go as smoothly. It's difficult to explain, but I'm actually working with 2 other women, and we're taking this concept of working energetically as far as finding your own authenticity, and we're doing coaching around it. In fact, we're going to be doing an event in Marrakesh. If any of your listeners are interested in going to a retreat where we're really going to dig deep into how you move your energy, how you move your thoughts, your whole mindset. We're doing that in October, so I'm sure they can.
And I think it's so needed, because I think people are more, it's becoming more and more evident that people are, everything is energy based, and even you can pick up people's energies in presentations, in business, in personal. I think it's incredible. So that's amazing.
Yeah, you can actually, once you're in tune to it, I mean, you can walk into a room and you can feel an energetic difference right away. I think it's so powerful. So we really start out with that, whether we do it online, whether we do it in a room full of people or a workshop, or whether we do it in a retreat setting. We take the whole premise that what you just said, we are all energy, Everything has a vibration and a frequency.
Yeah.
And let's really identify how you can really get down to the basics and start there and raise that vibration and that energetic frequency. That's not to say that everything we do sounds like a spiritual journey. It isn't, but it is one that takes you in a direction that's a little bit different from what everybody else is doing, because we get you to start from ground zero.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get down to your basic energetic blueprint.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about all the decisions you made in your life. Were they made for you by someone else?
Yeah.
Or were you able to make them for yourself? And interestingly enough, when we do this with women, a lot of times women will take a very hard look at their life and realize that they were living it for someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it started out as their parents, whether it then grew to a spouse or a partner, whether then it grew to a boss or somebody that they worked with in the corporate arena. It's hard for women, because of who we are by nature, to really think that we're in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that you can't find some women that always have felt that way. I basically have always been one to write my own rules. If somebody tells me that this is the way it needs to be and it doesn't feel right with where I want to go or where I feel in my heart I need to be, then I reject that. So I've had kind of an unconventional approach to my career and my personal life, but others have not been like that. And I think that you find where women, go into these situations and they, one of my partners was an incredibly successful woman on Wall Street. And she hated every minute of her last few years because she didn't feel that she was still at that place. She was in a different place, and she finally had the courage to do something where she tapped into a whole nother side of her. And she shines a light that's so needed on that process, because she's been there and really gone through that. So that's where I feel I'm a little bit different. And
it sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It is amazing. We've got some great testimonials for people who really have felt, totally transformed. And it's because they've started to look at things through a different lens.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. It's like shift the way you approach things and the way you look at things, and realize that you're different, but that everybody else is different as well. So you honor yourself, but you honor other people. All of a sudden you realize there's more than one of you in this dance.
Yes.
And
you bring your own skill set, which is also, your own talent and strength.
Absolutely. I think and that's so powerful.
Absolutely. So that brings me to the next question. Having featured in some of the country's leading publications such as Elle, Incel, and Self, before leaving the corporate world, how significant was this for you? And did you find that this not only added even more credibility, but also did this help you open other doors for you and other opportunities?
Yes, and somewhat yes. So having that background, what I did corporately was really two-pronged. The first, as I said, was the ability to work with and mentor and manage teams. So I knew I always wanted to take a little bit of that aspect into what I did next.
Yes.
The second part was the passion that I had for health and wellness and beauty, especially working at Self.
Yes.
Self was a very, very special title. It has since changed so dramatically as it does. It's not a tangible publication anymore. It's online. You don't get to look and feel it, but it was wonderful. And it really taught you about self-empowerment. It taught you about the importance of health and wellness, accepting, your own body image, all those great things, and then natural beauty. So those things I think were things that I took out of it when I started Body Soul Beauty, which is an online site. What I didn't realize about it, and the kind of the downside is, it is really not easy to sell actual products online. Services, I think, are a little bit different because you don't have to inventory and you're not competing with Amazon, which I think every small business owner needs to face. That Amazon is not only a behemoth, most people use Amazon as a search engine now. So it's the first place they start for beauty. It's the first place they start for, televisions. I mean, it is just a fact of life. So you're competing in that arena, which makes it very, very difficult to sell actual products. So that was kind of an eye-opener to me, that I really didn't think that it was going to be that difficult. So I've shifted the model. This is another thing, Karen, that I think is so important to make clear to the women who are going to be listening to this, who have this thought that they want to have their own business. They have to have the flexibility to move off their own idea, even if they think it's the greatest idea since sliced bread.
Yeah. If
market conditions tell you that it's really going to be hard, I don't care if the idea is the best thing ever, you have to modify that idea and get off the fact that, you think it's so great, and evolve it to meet the market conditions, which is what I had to do with Body Soul Beauty. In fact, I'm going to be launching Body Soul Beauty TV, which is going to be a weekly, I think it's going to probably be between 20 and 30 minutes on. We're going to do product reviews. I'm going to do interviews with women who have started their own businesses in beauty and wellness and spiritual practices. And so I'm going to be bringing that more of an information service to people, rather than actually selling and inventorying product. Now, I have 2 products that I'm an affiliate for, that obviously, that if people want to buy them, fine. But I think that I had to shift that model because of what I was provided as far as insight is concerned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, if there's people or anybody that I can help you with in terms of that, I'm more than happy to assist as well.
That's great. Absolutely. Would love that.
So having also worked in the corporate world, how did this help you, and what were some of the lessons and learnings you experienced that you could apply and do better when you left the corporate world?
Well, I think I knew one of the things that for me was the most advantageous for coming out of the corporate world was the fact that I always had worked with clients on the sales side. So I wasn't on the editorial side where I would actually do writing. I was on the sales side, so I was always engaging in conversations with my client about what they were really looking to achieve. So I've always had the mindset of the other person.
Absolutely.
And that is one of the most important things you can take into a business. So you must remember, it's not about you. It's about the person that you are serving. So that's the most important thing. So I took that out of corporate. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about me telling them how great these publications were. Yeah. Although they all were great. It was about showing them and demonstrating how that can help their goals, how that can help them achieve their goal. So that's what you want to do when you're starting your business, is to identify who your target consumer is. And as a result, how you help that person get to where they want to go, whether it's coach them into a new job, whether it's give them insight on a product that's going to help them feel better, or all those things. So I think that was probably the absolute best thing that I could have ever taken out of the corporate world, was the fact that I always was able to put myself in someone else's place rather than just focus on the me.
Absolutely. So what have been some of your biggest career highlights?
Well, obviously, being able to work at Vogue magazine. I was this young, fashion-obsessed girl growing up in Chicago who absolutely loved fashion. I mean, from the time I can remember, I always considered myself to really be fashion forward. I loved dressing up, and I went to Catholic school, so I had to wear a uniform. And oh my God, it was the most difficult thing in the world to have to wear a uniform, because I wanted to, I wanted to dress up every day and have, make a signature statement with my look, but I wasn't able to do that. But I always loved fashion, and I began seriously reading fashion magazines when I was about 12 years old. So the opportunity, once I moved to New York, I got a job in advertising, and I worked in advertising, and then I went over to publishing, and a friend of mine told me about this job opening over at Vogue magazine. And even the thought of interviewing at Vogue was something that was, to me, one of the highlights. And then, working there was, just amazing. I felt that was certainly a highlight. And then when I was promoted and, became the associate publisher of Elle magazine many years later, that was really exciting to me as well. So those two. And then
did you get to have much to do with Anna Wintour, or was it?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm dating myself, but when I first started interviewing over at Vogue, was the first day I interviewed was the day that Anna Wintour came to Vogue. And
wow, that's amazing.
It really was the buzz in the hall, because Grace Mirabella was still the editor.
Yes.
So it was announced on a news program, a local news program, that Grace Mirabella was being fired, and people knew it before she did. So it was a big scandal at the time. Anna Wintour is obviously one of the most visible forces of fashion of the last 40 years.
Yeah, for sure.
She has created, and rightly so, an incredible leadership role in fashion. She is the arbiter of a lot of what people look to as fashion. That's changing, because I think millennials have a different point of view of fashion that other people have. So, but she was at the right place at the right time. And I think the designers that worked with her realized her power and her influence. And so it was a fabulous, very interesting time. But then for me personally, having the courage to start my own business was also something that I would put on equal footing.
Absolutely. I think people don't give themselves enough credit.
Oh, you are right.
It's a massive, going back to even the earlier point, people don't see the blood, the sweat, the tears. They just see an end product, or they just see, something from, that gets put out to the public. But a lot of people really don't know, that, some months you didn't have enough money to, eat or, pay your bills or, figure out things. So I think for everybody it's different, but I'm just saying, generically speaking, I think, I think entrepreneurship has almost become very trendy, and people don't really differentiate between the reality of what a real entrepreneur is and something that's just a fad, so to speak.
I totally agree with you. And I think that, that's why hiring a coach or a mentor or getting somebody who's going to give it to you straight is really important from the beginning. So yeah. I didn't do that, Karen. I had, this glass. My glass is not only half full, my glass is always full. I look at everything with this incredible level of positivity that I'm never going to fail. And I think that that's great as far as mindset. But if you look at that, there are pitfalls in that, in so much as you might run out of money. If this isn't the endless, you're not walking into a room full of cash. You are living without that flow of cash. Many people who do that. So you don't think about that. It's like, how fast can you really get this income to where you need to not live your life in debt? But the road to entrepreneurship is a rocky one. If you get that level of trust with a coach or with a mentor that are going to give it to you straight, then you're really able to make that decision, with your eyes open and without those blinders on. Because you're right. Being your own boss is extremely seductive. That thought that you can, but then again, what does that really mean? People don't go beyond that. Be your own boss. It means working 24/7. When you're the boss, that's your baby. You're raising that baby. You don't take a lot of time off. Now, the thing you want to do, and the thing I always wanted to do, and I'm realizing as we speak, is the fact that I always wanted to incorporate business into my life where it was all working the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But it's been a journey of 5 years. Now, some people might achieve it in a lot sooner, but I think that, it takes you a while to even figure out what it is that's going to be that perfect road for you.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm sure you know that, being an entrepreneur, that it takes, there are many paths, many ways to get there, a lot of obstacles, bumps in the road. To some people, it will be worth it. To others, it won't be. And I think that's the thing that people need to realize. It might not be for you.
100%. And that's okay too.
Absolutely. That's the thing.
I think going back to your earlier point as well, I think we judge ourselves too harshly. And I mean, the rest of the world is doing that for you. So I think that you really have to get back to the place where you have to go within yourself and self-forgive yourself for mistakes you made or for things. But, we are our own worst critics anyway.
Oh,
so, yeah.
There's no question about that. It's interesting. I'll just add this one point to kind of give you an example. I was having lunch about 4 years ago with somebody I had bought a service from for a business, and she was working for a corporation and she was doing very well, but had always wanted to go off on her own. She wanted to have a gourmet cheese shop. So she said, I've always wanted to have this gourmet cheese shop. I really love it. So I said, okay, after lunch, I'll take you to a place that is exactly like what you're talking about. So she walked in, she was mesmerized. This woman had created this fantastic shop with imported cheeses and meats and beautiful dishes and glassware and all this fabulous stuff. And I said, do you realize how long it has taken her to do this? Yeah. She's 7 days a week tirelessly for the last 10 years. I said, are you willing to give up a multiple six-figure-a-year job to live with huge debt, to work 24/7, to, to never have something where you can take a vacation and not check in every day? And she said, no, I'm really not. So as much as she loved the idea of having this gorgeous shop that people come in, she only wanted the end game. She wasn't committed to the steps you needed to take to get to the end game. And I think that's what people have to realize.
Yeah.
It's not just about the destination.
No.
You better be up for the journey.
Yeah. And it's a rocky one.
Oh my God, I know for a fact.
It's a roller coaster.
It totally is.
Yeah.
That's not to say we don't love it.
Yeah. And look, everything comes with its highs and its lows, but I do feel, and point to what you were saying, is that you actually learn to appreciate the small victories. And when you learn to appreciate the small victories, when you get the big victories, then you appreciate it a lot more, because, you just appreciate the whole process.
Oh my God, absolutely. And you know what I also have appreciated probably the most, Karen, about all this, in addition to really kind of getting to a place where I really love my work and personal life, and I like how it's working together, is the ability to share insight about this with others.
Absolutely.
That to me gets me most excited. It's like where I'm at, I'm in a position now where I can talk to people and they can really benefit from what I'm telling them. And that is a whole different ballgame for me. I love that aspect.
Absolutely. So that leads me to the next question. So as a woman, you've created 3 startups, and you've given us some background. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you could share, and how this helped you in your process of empowering other women?
Well, I think that identifying and being clear, that from the get-go, I think that that's really important. What is it that you really want to do? So I think that that's the stumbling block for most people. I don't think they really have a clue in terms of what let's just say this, if what they want to do matches their skill set. Yes. So I think that there is that preparation that they really need to have that identifies their strengths. If you get somebody who says, oh, I want to be somebody who is based in the travel business. Okay. Then you've got to know everything there is to know about travel better than your competition, because why else is somebody going to go with you? So and you have to be willing to do a lot of research, and it means a lot of talking to different places out there and creating relationships, and really it's just like real estate. It's the same way. You want to be a real estate agent. Well, there are other real estate agents out there that have created relationships. Are you willing to take the time to go to community events, to really seed yourself in a community that you're going to be servicing in terms of selling properties? Do you know every single thing about that area, or the house or the apartment that you're selling? What makes you better? They may not like sales at all. Well, so why are they even looking at that? So there are things that I think that from the get-go, you really have to figure out where your strengths lie and what your intention is. What kind of business do you really want to build? So for me, I took out of the fact that I love motivating and working with teams. I also, as I said earlier, loved the whole beauty and wellness category. So that's how I really focused my businesses. I also love the whole aspects, once I learned it, of human design, and that's how I structured my Kismet Alchemy business. So I have three diverse things that really kind of all have an underlying thread. So let's start there in terms of how people approach this. Let's identify your strengths. Let's identify your weaknesses. So taking that out of the process, giving yourself a timetable. I don't think people really, that's another thing I learned. You know, how long do you want to take before you can get this? If you feel that you want to be up and running and have a business within a year, I would say that you really need to look at multi-level marketing to get there, because there's probably no other way that you possibly can achieve that in a year. Yeah. And that's what's so great about affiliate marketing. It's done for you. It's done for you, but you have to be committed to making sure that you follow the rules and that you're working with a really good company and a really good team that is going to continue to produce products that you're going to be able to sell. So that's something that I also would tell people. You know, you've got to know about that. It's what's your timetable? How fast do you want to make this happen? Are the people that surround you, your family, friends, are they supportive? That's another thing that you've got to realize, and that can, you know, are they going to be comfortable with you taking away part of their income? I mean, you got to ask yourself that. So those are all things that I took into consideration when I started my businesses. It was important. My intention was to create a life where I could travel, where I could do the things that I love to do from the corporate world on my own, and do it for the rest of my life. So that was really my intention, and I worked from there. But I never thought in a million years it would take as many years as it did, or as much money as it did. And I'm just very grateful for the fact that, you know, I had some supportive people around me who really got me through the process, and have stumbled on things that have now, you know, kind of self-determined my business. Yeah. You know, it kind of has been created for me over the years by market conditions and other opportunities that I came across. So
absolutely. So you created the Leadership Hub. What do you do within this program? The biggest challenge these days, and something that has come up in conversation with many women I've spoken with, the challenges are numerous, from accessing funding and also how to pitch. Many women have incredible ideas but lack the confidence in pitching, presenting, and closing. How does your program assist women to do this?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. And I think that women don't, so this is kind of a complicated answer, but, but it's a truthful one. So one of the most beneficial things that I found in my business was to join women's networking organizations. Yeah. Where you're really meeting other women who are on similar paths, but diverse paths. Yeah. And so I was in a networking group called Six Figures, and it has since morphed into something else. But during Six Figures, I met some of the people who I now work with, and made incredible relationships from the personal side as well. And one of the most interesting events that I ever attended for Six Figures was, why do women undervalue their businesses?
100%.
Why do they, when they pitch their businesses, why are only one out of, I don't know, 100 businesses that investors look at accepted from women entrepreneurs versus men. I mean, I can't remember the exact statistic. Maybe it's a little better than that, but it's mind-boggling. And there are two reasons for this. The mindset of a woman is not to go out and create a $20 million business.
Yeah.
So they don't have a business plan that says, okay, investors, in 2 years, you're going to get back 5 times your investment, and this is what it's going to be. Yeah. Their nature, based on years of conditioning, psychologically, is to start small. But investors don't want businesses where they're not going to get millions of dollars in return. It's not
the same.
Look at it. They're looking to put these ideas in front of people who have a lot of money. That's how investing works. You find angel investors, certainly, who will look at small businesses, but they're still looking for something that dazzles in terms of the way your business plan is constructed. Yeah. They want big. They want big ideas. They don't want small. No. So that's the thing. We talked about it. It was a fascinating evening with investors who were talking about the fact, look, women out there, you've got great ideas. Put a plan together that shows us this can be a $10 million business. Scale it. Just scale it. Don't go small. No. On the other hand, women who have reached a certain level in their life might realize that the corporate world isn't all it's cracked up to be.
Oh, no. And I think it's even worse now than it ever was because there's so much uncertainty.
That's right. So they aren't necessarily putting out a plan that's all about money. Yeah. They're thinking about a business that gives them back more from purpose and intention and helping others. So they're not going to have a business that scales to 10 million because they have realized or gotten to a certain point in their life where money is not a driving force. So you're talking about polar, things that polar opposed. These investors are looking for this $20 million idea, but these women have come to a place in their lives where $20 million isn't going to be as important to them as establishing a business that is sustainable for women in Uganda. So that's why you have this situation where maybe things aren't working as well. Now, fast forward though, the woman that you founded Six Figures is working for a woman entrepreneur who has a global business, who is scaling it into the millions while also helping millions of women along the way. So she's found the way to incorporate both purpose, intention, helping women around the globe, and yet having a business that opens the eyes of investors because it's so large in scale. So
I mean, that leads me to, sorry to interject, but that leads me to the challenge of funding is also a big one, and less than 5% of women have been funded globally in a multi-billion-dollar industry, which is completely unacceptable. So how do you feel your program and mentorship is helping to progressively change this?
Well, I think just bringing up the fact that I just brought up, giving people that insight as, okay, you've got this idea, scale it. Don't be afraid. Take it up. Get this in. How can you scale this? Look at this. How can you make this bigger? Because if you don't make it bigger, chances are you can find some people who might look at it, but the amount of people who have eyes on your project, just by virtue of it being small, is going to be less than if you went for the larger scale. I also have somebody who is one of the men that I worked with in sales along the way, who left the corporate world, who started his own business, and he teaches people how to pitch. So that's something I would also recommend. Get someone who trains people in this process. You know, Kieran, it's really fascinating, but you can find a coach or a business solution strategist for most things nowadays.
Yes.
They're a specialist.
But you just have to find the right ones, because I think where the challenge is, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, is that everybody's now a coach, everybody's an author, everybody's something, and Amazon bestseller. But the truth is, you know, half of these people are living out of their grandmother's garages or something, and they don't have the credentials to back up their mouths. And you know, I don't say this to be nasty, but it's the same thing as if I'm going to go to a financial advisor, why would I go to someone that's broke? It's the same as going to someone that doesn't go to the gym and asking them how to lose weight. You know, it's just so I think this is where the problem resides, with where do you find the actual really credible people in amongst all this noise?
Yeah, and I think that I would say, first of all, you must research and get testimonials and success stories from people who have achieved success via this person. You have to do that. The best way to do that is through networking. You're going to have to go and network as much as possible, because you will find the relationships. You will be able to have the dialogue with people who have been there, and they will lead you to those people who can help you go to the next level. But without that, I think hey, look, I've been there. I did an online coaching program, and let's just say that I was dazzled, and I shouldn't have been. So I think that, but that happens to most people. Yeah. Because as I said before, let's go back to when you're leaving the corporate world, or you're in the corporate world and you're searching for your next step. Yeah. There are charlatans out there. There are people out there, you know, especially in the online space, who have created a persona that is less than authentic. And then you realize, once you're working with them, it's like, hey, wait a minute. You promised this, that, and the other thing, and that's not happening. So I think that you have to really have conversations with people, because you can get burned. And everybody is a coach. And, you know, I think that here's what's really happened, is the fact that so many people in corporate have a tremendous amount of credibility based on years and years of experience. So they feel that they can take that background, that learning, that insight, and be a coach for other people. Well, it's not that easy, because when you're a coach, you've got to get into the areas where you're making somebody uncomfortable, so that they can really spill the beans, so you really know who they are and what's bothering them. Many people aren't willing to take that kind of psychological approach that's necessary to really get to the heart of the matter, and then move forward from there, because of maybe the path they've taken in corporate doesn't give them that ability, or maybe they're not comfortable going there. So I think that, you know, and it's great that people want to take their own business acumen and share it with others, but they've got to do it in a way where, again, you're helping that person, not just touting your own.
Yeah, blowing your own trumpet.
Exactly. That's not going to help.
No. So that leads me to the next question. So you have worked and been in a diverse number of industries. How do you feel that that has benefited you and helped you And has this helped you adapt to change in the market? And has this been something that came naturally for you, or was it a personal challenge for you?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think that, I grew up in a world that is very, very different from what the world looks like right now.
Yes.
I grew up and women were just starting to get breaks as far as career is concerned. And then I moved to New York, and I was in a very glamorous field and saw life from a lens of glamour and, kind of ease and fun. Well, things changed fast over the course of the last 10 years, 12 years. There was a turning point, and there's not anything that's going to ever allow people to go back.
No.
So I think that what I found was that I had to change. And I think that I was open to it. I realized it, and I took what steps I needed to take to make the transition.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not willing to do that. I embraced technology rather than ran from it. But a lot of people I know totally ran away from it. They don't.
Yeah.
They didn't want to embrace it. It's like learning a new language. It totally is. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to navigate the tech world because it is different. And it's something for many people that is, might as well be studying Russian. They don't want to do it. So you find people of a certain age not wanting to adapt and really conform to the new rules. So they find themselves more challenged than people who are willing to make that leap and do what it takes. I hired a reverse mentor. For the first year, I had somebody come to my house once a week and teach me how to use the internet, how to really be proficient in social media and everything like that. There are people who didn't want to do that. No. And I think that those are people who are going to continue to face challenges. So mindset is everything. You have to change your focus and be willing to accept the fact that you got to live in a different world. You got to give up that comfort zone of what the world was like. So that I learned as a result of the fact that all the publications were going digital, and people didn't want to pick up and have a magazine in their hand anymore. There are some that are still around, but for the most part, young people get information, and older people get information online now. That's how they're getting it. And
also there's more eyeballs actually that sees it, because if it's in a print publication, there's only a certain limited amount of people that are actually going to see that feature anyway.
You're absolutely right. But I learned that as a result of the business I was in, and also the people who I was surrounded with. I saw, I saw and got to interact with people who were of different generations. I learned from them. I took away the most important part of what I was learning from them, and I never felt threatened or pushed out because of that. I just felt the fact that we were moving, the world was moving at a different pace. And if you wanted to continue to have success, you had to get on this bandwagon. And I think that's what people fail to realize, is the fact that you can't hold on to the past. You accept and modify and evolve and change based on market conditions. You can say, oh, I want how it was. Well, you can't bring that back. It's never going to happen.
No.
Get over it. Move on.
Absolutely.
But, one of the things, Karen, that I think, and I always tell people, is you do not have to be out there on your own.
No.
There are so many people who are so willing to help you.
Yes, of course. You just have to be willing to ask, right?
Absolutely. And so many people don't want to ask. They feel that, oh, you know, people won't want to help them. Well, of course they will.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There are people who would love to help other people and share their story and help them write their story in a way that they're going to get success. So you
100%.
find.
So that leads me to the next question. One of the biggest challenges women still face is sexual harassment, and men in positions of power having a sense of entitlement and abusing it, especially in the social media space. Is this something you also assist and guide women through in your program? And what would be your advice to other women who are faced with such horrible and inappropriate situations?
Well, so I'm going to answer that in two parts.
Sure.
So the first is, I think that in the program that we're creating, where we're taking a woman and getting down to that soul imprint, we're really getting into a space in terms of how secure is she in her own thoughts, in her own commitments to herself, how authentic is she, how authentic has she been, does she live her life for someone else? And when you get down and you strip somebody down to that level and they admit that maybe they're living somebody else's life, then you start to empower them, and then you start to get them to a position where they are more confident and they can deal with the workplaces, abuse in the workplace in a way where they feel they're empowered, whether it's to report somebody, whether it's to take a stand and reject the abuse and work things in a way where they are empowered and the other person doesn't have that empower or power over them. So when you learn the ways of building your own self-esteem, you become better equipped to deal with workplace abuse. The second part is, and it's something that I really haven't changed my mind about in many years, is the fact that a very close friend of mine used to have something annually that she would call the CEO Summit. Mm-hmm. And she did it in New York for many years, and she'd have women who were looking for C-suite jobs or who had just become CEOs. It would be all the things that would be facing them and how they could move forward in their quest to break the glass ceiling and continue their success. And abuse came up. And, you know, I was working at a company at a time where there were a few men at the top who were accused of being abusive to some of the women on their staff. But the company, rather than fire the men, had just paid off. There were lawsuits and just paid off the women. And the women then were faced with maybe continuing this situation or and putting up with it, just being richer for the, you know, they could either lose their job or they could stick with it and put up with this abuse. And I think that it varies depending on situation. But at the end of the day, a woman in that situation, in that particular corporation, working under those conditions, for me, you had to say, I'm out of here. And I think that because by not, you could say, oh, but they won. Well, who really won? I think you win when you make the decision to leave, because those men were continued to be empowered by their bosses. then the only way you could really win is to leave and to go to a place where that kind of behavior is not rewarded or condoned. Remember, that was a long time ago. I think conditions have changed. The Me Too movement has certainly allowed women to be able to be vocal, more vocal. I think, unfortunately, there's this created situation now where maybe there's a paranoia that's kind of pervasive, that women question everything now. But it had to happen. I mean, there had to be a watershed where this, you had to say enough is enough. Harvey Weinstein obviously is the poster boy for all this, but look what it's brought up, and look at where we've come in the interim, not just with Harvey Weinstein and people in the entertainment business but people like Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, we are this whole patriarchy, and this wave of feminine energy is coming in, and that will continue to really rapidly change things over the course of the next few years, I'm sure. And then we'll reach this equilibrium where women will know what they question, what they put up with, what they deal with, and what they deem unacceptable. And hopefully they'll be in a position of power where it will just not continue. But it's also something where women out there have to educate their sons about how they think about women and how they feel about women's success, and how they feel about their own success if they're working with women who might be their bosses. So it's something that we're not going to change in a day. But I think that the energy is out there, and it is changing. And that, hopefully men and women will be more aware of how we need to move forward to be able to work together to mutual success.
Absolutely. So can you speak more about the projects and businesses and entrepreneurial projects that you're involved with now, or is this something?
Oh, sure.
Thank
you. I love to talk about it. So as I mentioned before, there are 2 multi-level marketing companies that I'm working with that it's funny because, I've always loved multi-level marketing from the standpoint that it allows you to really have a business in 10 minutes. But also for me, I love it because it allows me to manage teams, which I told you with our first question. It's one of the things I love the most, is to motivate and manage a team. So I have a business called Side Hustle Warriors, where I not only talk about how people can have their own multi-level marketing business in under 15 minutes, but I coach them in terms of how to be successful at it. So it's all about mindset and taking the steps and working with people and talking about the benefits, all those things we talked about before. So there are a couple of products that are leading edge science products that are sold on my sites, and people can direct message me if they want more information. So I have that going, and really very excited about that, because it allows me to bring financial success to people, to give them financial freedom, and show them the steps they need to take in a very simple fashion. They don't have to go through 5 years like I did. So that's really great. I love that whole Side Hustle Warrior area. So it's sidehustlewarriors.com is the site, but Side Hustle Warrior is the Instagram and the Facebook and the YouTube title. Then I have Body Soul Beauty, and that is, as I said, I'm getting ready to launch Body Soul Beauty TV, where we're going to have interviews with people women who have started their own businesses in the beauty, wellness, and personal growth and spiritual space. So we'll be talking about dieting. We'll be talking about hormones. We'll be talking about, non-toxic and safe beauty, which I have a passion for.
Yeah.
We'll be doing astrology and new moon ceremonies. So it's really kind of taking in all aspects of body, soul, and beauty. So that's really fun. We'll be kicking that off probably almost toward that, probably the end of August. And then I have a business called Kismet Alchemy. And that's where I do my coaching, getting down to starting with doing a human design reading, and then working with, on my own or with 2 other people that we're going to be doing at that retreat in Morocco, where we really take the whole, let's get 5 working days of transformation going, and really taking you to the next level from kind of your core values to how you move forward, to how you look at yourself and see yourself making decisions in the future. So those are the 3.
Amazing.
Your listeners can message you. I'll send you my links. They can find me. Oh, great. I'd love to do that. So they're able to find me. And I always have, if they go to Side Hustle Warrior, I have my calendar. They can always book a free call with me where I can download them for 15 minutes on how we can move forward. It doesn't cost anything. So it really gets to, where are you? What are you really looking for? I've been there. I can help you with the next level.
Amazing. So that leads me to the next question. What is your ultimate vision, and what kind of legacy would you like to leave?
That's a wonderful question. So the legacy, my ultimate vision really is to, let me read it. Can I go get my personal mission that I say every?
Sure.
Hold one sec. So I help thousands of people live better lives by offering products and practices that improve their emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial well-being, and help others to do the same. So that is something that is my vision. I also, feel that giving back, living a life with purpose, not only from a place of empowerment, but with the understanding that even if we live many lives, which I believe we do, we only remember the life that we're living at the time. So make that life as purposeful as possible. And not as material as possible. Certainly everybody wants to achieve a level of material success because the basics are expensive. Not only the luxuries, but the basics are expensive. And for those of us outside, for those of us who live in the United States, healthcare is a continuous, incredible cost. And so for people to really keep their good healthcare, they have to achieve a level of material success. But outside of that, what are we all here for? Do we want to leave a legacy that, was all about, just maybe waste and frivolity, or is it about really the human experience and being able to advocate fairness and to advocate rights for people around the world, not just women's rights, but the rights for everybody. Women, I think, certainly, I would say, advocate more for women because I think that women certainly have still not achieved the level playing field that we should be on. So I'm always going to advocate for that. But in general, are you living with purpose and intention? Are you giving back? Are you allowing somebody at the end of the day to have a better day than they did yesterday? Or are you just living for, the materialism that is so pervasive for the 1%. So it's a challenge.
It's interesting that you bring that point up because, yesterday I was actually speaking to a friend of mine, and she was saying that there's this fancy bag brand, I can't even remember the name of it, but she said, these bags are going for like over £100,000. And I just kind of sit there and go like you say, when you speak about materialism and legacy, there's such a contradiction because you've got these big name celebrities who are buying these ridiculously overpriced bags, in my opinion. And it's like, yes, a lot of these people do great work and do good things, but how does people, in your opinion, justify when there's people starving, when there is a lack of education, when there's all of these things, and people are indulging in such ridiculously overpriced brands that, I'm just intrigued to know your opinion on that in terms of legacy.
Well, I think that I don't want to judge them because their world is so different from yours and mine.
Sure.
The people they surround themselves with have created a false sense of importance for those people. Yeah. And in many instances, it's not their doing. It's that they're treated like they're so special when, of course, they may not be special at all. And many of those products are given to them. It's interesting working in a very prestigious area in publishing for so long. I saw that most celebrities never pay for anything.
Yeah.
Because their influence is a means of advertising. So I think that when you do see people carrying this opulence around, whether it be a bag or whether it be, a couture outfit, it probably is something they didn't pay for. But it does give that false impression that material object is so much more important than other things. So, I'm not going to jump on the Angelina bandwagon, but in a way, you never see Angelina Jolie, in outfits that are really exorbitant or carrying around, she wears like things that you would pull out, a normal person would pull out of their closet. So, and she goes to the third world and she tries to get things done. So there are people like that who haven't succumbed to the Kardashian, the whole Kardashian lifestyle. So I think that, but it's not just about them. It's about anybody who, who is around opulence, kind of wants that. And I think that, I feel, Kieran, that in many instances, they may reach a point where they look at their lives and they may say, what am I doing?
Yeah,
and that's happening. I think that, everybody kind of reaches a point of maturity at a different age.
Yeah.
And you look at the world around you and you say, there has to be something bigger than myself.
All of this.
Yeah, I see it actually. There are commercials out there now that are running in the States. There's one that, it talks about big and then it talks about bigger. And it's about the vision. It's not just about, it goes beyond the day-to-day and the material into kind of like the bigger is the save the world moment. And we all don't have to save the world, but we should have an intention that we want
to do good.
Yeah, we want to leave the world better than we found it. I think I think that's the overriding legacy that we all have.
Yeah.
That we should be leaving the world in a better place than where we found it. And to deny climate, you know, the fact that we need to do something in the climate area, or that we need to do something to help people in the third world, or the fact that we need to find water. There's a water crisis. I mean, this is like huge, and we don't deal with these things. So we've got to refocus our priorities. That's not to say we can't enjoy, you know, having a lovely outfit, or you know, treating ourselves to, you know, a really kind of luxurious meal or a great bottle of wine. You know, we shouldn't necessarily get into a state that we have to feel we're depriving, but we should be on in motion to do good, and the rest will all evolve.
No, absolutely. So that leads me to the next, two final questions. So leadership is something that we are seriously lacking. What do you feel needs to be done to change this? And what are some of the key examples of your own leadership skills that you apply and practice that differentiate you from others and give you a unique edge?
Well, I think we have to find heroes, and we have to champion those heroes. Yes. I think that's important. And when you find them, make others aware of them. So I talked about the Six Figures group that I was in, and the woman, Jan Mercer-Dahms, who is now working as an officer in a company called Mayshad, Mayshad. And the leader of Mayshad is a woman named Nezi, what's her name? Neza Aoli. And she is from Morocco. She's living in New York now, and she's creating global change. Wow. And to me, promoting what she's doing is a way of championing women leaders. It's a way of extending my own leadership through membership in a global network that she's going to be creating this fall called Mayshad Choice, which I'm very excited about. So it's championing, whatever, it's championing the women. Yeah. That's a hard word to say, actually. You know, I don't want to get involved in politics, no. But I think that women leaders around the world are demonstrating their strong leadership skills in terms of, you know, running for higher office. I think supporting women in all roles of leadership is important. Yeah. And I think in terms of, you know, being active and, you know, sharing your own leadership skills. There are places where you can volunteer to mentor and to demonstrate leadership. There are many organizations that you can join where this is a possibility. And I would say that that's really a very strong first step. You know, look for organizations that are led by women you admire. Okay. And then make others aware of those organizations and of those women who are in a position of leadership and why they're so important. Share that insight with others, why they're making a difference in the world, and why their contribution is so important. So I think that that's a way to be able to do it. And as a result, you become a leader by sharing the leadership of others and making people aware. It's just a win-win situation.
Absolutely. And this leads me to the final question. What are your 3 key pieces of advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs?
3 pieces of advice?
3 key pieces of advice.
Okay. So we're assuming these people are already becoming entrepreneurs, correct? Yes. Okay. Yes. If you haven't already, get yourself a coach or get yourself a person who you feel is your most trusted advisor and someone who is going to give it to you straight. Yeah. Talk to them. Be very, very candid. Get down to your soul. Talk about and ask if this person, if you're working with someone who knows you, ask them, what do you think my strengths are? So you may not know your strengths as well as somebody who really knows you does. Ask them for advice. Be candid and accept their advice. What are my strengths? So having your sense of self will really start you in the right place. So the second one, which is kind of a sister to the first, is get an accountability partner. Yeah. So somebody, it may be the same person who is your trusted advisor or coach. It probably won't be, but get an accountability partner who will hold your hand to your fingers to the fire. Make sure that you aren't getting away with anything, because to be successful, you need to be accountable. You need to take the steps involved. There are no free lunches. You need to do the work. So you need that accountability partner. So those are two. The third thing is probably belief. You need to have the belief that you can do this. If you don't have the belief in yourself that you are ready for this journey, you are never going to complete it the way you want. So I would say, commitment's important, but not as much as belief, because you could be committed to something that you really don't believe in, and then you're not going to get the success that you really want. You must believe that you can get to the end, to that goal that you want to get to. So having that trusted person who will be straight with you and give you advice, and also talk about your strengths. The second, the accountability partner, and the third, steadfast belief in the process and in yourself. Yeah. And those are the three bits of advice. I could give you 100 others, but those are three that are really important.
Well, thank you so much, Lynne, for joining us. That was amazing. And thank you for sharing your story and just giving us some really phenomenal insights into what you do, and imparting some really key and amazing pieces of advice. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. I hope that even if I was helpful to one of your listeners, that we have succeeded in really helping them along this road to not only entrepreneurship, because it's not really about that. It's about awareness and self-awareness and learning how deep inside of us there are many different facets just waiting to be explored and opened and shared.
Well, thank you. And hopefully we can have you back soon.
Oh, I'd love it. I would really, really love it. And you'll come on my show.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks.